Oh, fan favorite earbud is getting all growed up. Hey there, this episode of Some Gadget Guy is brought to you by viewers like you, all of the amazing people who share content across social media, and the incredible generosity of my patrons on patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. More info on those awesome nerds later in the video. Okay, this is fun. The folks at KZ sent these my way to test drive and share my thoughts. These are the KZ Zenith, a new tunable single driver IEM boasting some nifty new hardware. Holding up earbuds for a video like this, it's always silly because it's like you just see this tiny little thing and then I'm just gonna punch in with B-roll and photos anyway. But inside this casing is a 10mm driver, but one using a larger diameter voice coil and a larger volume magnet. Now, if that doesn't mean anything to you, that's okay. The claim from KZ is that this will sound gooder. And these are some of the tech bits we talk about when we're trying to describe improvements to things like low frequency response. They are pretty chunky cases, and like the CCA Rhapsody that I just recently reviewed, we have these little grids, these 4 little switches on the back of each earbud. We have options to tune this earbud, but more on that in just a bit. 2-pin connectors to hook up the cable. In the box, we have the cable, which is fine. It feels a little cheap, but it works. I was happy to see we get silicone and foam ear tips. Now, I opted to use foam for most of my reviewing. And we also get this nice, fancy zippered carrying case. Just all in all, it's one of the nicer presentations for an IEM that we've ever seen from this brand. KZ is looking to impress, but all of that would be for naught if they did not sound good. Because I like what KZ is doing here. The Zenith are still promoting a crowd-friendly tuning, but it's a little less deep V aggressive than some of their previous offerings. Just out of the box, with all of the switches set to off, it's a little more mature a sound. It's rich, it's colorful, good presence in the highs, a nice lift in the lows. I can personally always do with more mids, but there's space here on this driver. We keep the buzz and distortion and snarl of guitars and synthesizers. Good rumble to play with, though I feel the actual attack on low frequency hits are just a touch soft. They're not bad, they're not dull, they're just a little soft in that initial attack. But you get some good rumble to follow that attack. It's a fun vibe. And then we get to the switches, and the first 3 are set to deliver even more bass. I have to say, this is not the kind of tuning I usually like. I've seen a few other write-ups that really like a 1 or 2 switch on presentation, and I get why. It makes the lows here even richer, and it's fun for the skull rumblers out there. I think it's neat, I think that's juicy, but personally, I think 3 switches on gets a bit muddy. That's not really my jam. But something kind of interesting happens when all 4 switches are flicked on. That it's like you took the whole frequency response graph and gave everything a lift. I don't know that I've ever seen that before. I mean, if it's just a lift or increased sensitivity, I think things like that can often be gimmicks or just end up sounding brittle or kind of hyper color artificial. But here, it kind of works. It does feel like a general lift and a more colorful presentation, but in line with what these sounded like with all 4 switches off. You have a couple different options and modes to play with, and that's one of the fun things about this and the CCA. You're encouraged and ultimately rewarded to spend a little time playing with different sounds. Really get a feel for what your ears like. I still have the same small reservation here as I did with the CCA that I don't think this is a feature you're going to adjust often. Now, there is a fun idea that you could use these in one setting, like for gaming, then flick a couple switches and then use them for another situation like watching a movie or listening to music. You totally could. I mean, once you get a feel for it, maybe you like music with 1 switch up and gaming with all switches up. But the adjustment is a little fiddly. These are tiny switches requiring a pin tool, like your phone's SIM card tool. So when you just want to pop in some earbuds and get on with your day, I think this process will slow folks down enough that you're more likely to just pick one style and stick with that. There is a little extra peace of mind that you might like the tuning out of the box, then make one hardware adjustment and like that tuning even better. And then you know you've got a closer sound to what you like. Not quite at the isolation level of some of my pro in-ear monitors, but they definitely help cut some surrounding environment. The soundstage isn't locked in a vise. I don't think closed earbuds will ever sound as open back cans, but there's space in this reproduction. More though, I just really like this vibe from KZ. They still have their other more aggressive options if you like that presentation and that kind of color, and Zenith is not a radical departure from that. It's just a little more shapely. It's a little curvier. And out of all of the KZ products I've tried so far, this one's a bit more in line with what I like to use for play. More like this, KZ. I like this work. And if you've caught any of my videos in the past, you know I'm a nut for audio. I'm a location sound mixer and voiceover director by trade. I love digging into just the fun novelty of new earbuds and headphones and little portable DACs and amps. And the folks who get to see the results of my testing and reviews first are my incredible patrons. All of the fine folks on patreon.com/SomeGadgetGuy. This list of names scrolling by on your screen right now. A huge thank you from the bottom of my heart, as these are the people that are helping to keep the lights on here in the Gadget Lab. They're basically the coolest tech pals in the universe, so I hope you'll check them out. Now, you know where you can find me around the rest of the internet at SomeGadgetGuy, basically everywhere, but these days, I'm trying to spend a bit more time on the Mastodons, a little on the Blueskis, a lot less so on the Facebooks and Instagrams and Threads, definitely not on the Dumpster Fire site, and I will catch you all on the next review.